What's up, North Carolina? I'm Rob Yates, your friendly neighborhood communications director, and I'm welcoming you back to another incredible episode of Liberty Inc., your source for all things liberty in our great state of North Carolina. Today's introduction, I confess, is a little bittersweet, as this is our season finale, season 3. It has been my pleasure to work on it. I've had a lot of fun, got to meet some really cool people, had some great conversations, got some fantastic input from you all. And we have a lot of things to build on, but we are not done yet. Today's episode is called Trail Tales, and there's a reason. First, we have Sean Haugh, Brian Irving, and Thomas Hill talking about the 2012 Wright campaign in our Storytellers episode. Then we have the great, venerable, wonderful, and amazing Spike Cohen come on and talk about his campaign, also telling trail tales, along with Mike Ross and Christina Aragues. With Spike's, I asked him at the end to leave us with some hope, and I follow that with his speech at the Reno convention, and I strongly suggest you all watch it. It is more applicable than ever. And then, for one last time this season, as always, Dub and Gru Talk Sports. I really hope that you all liked this, enjoyed it, had fun with it, got a few laughs. We do have some things planned for the next couple months, some special episodes, see what we can put together, and we'll be back next season. So for the last time, enjoy.
Howdy, well, I'm Sean Haugh, and I have with me today Brian Irving and Thomas Hill to talk about the Lee Wrights for President campaign in 2012. Brian was the campaign manager for Lee's campaign, and Thomas, I don't know if you had a title or not, but it's like
you got that. Brian was press secretary.
Oh, Brian was press secretary.
I was campaign manager.
You were the campaign manager.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, and then that's why I had you on here to tell a story to get it right.
It's been a long time. And a little caveat, Brian was a lot more than press secretary.
Oh, I know. Well, you both had to wear all the hats basically. But, so I just want to start with, what motivated Lee Wrights, our favorite son from Winston-Salem, to run for president?
Well, it's kind of funny. As hazy as far as, his first motivation. I know that to start at the very beginning, it was 2010, May of 2010. It was we just had the St. Louis convention, Libertarian Party National Convention. And I think that's the year Lee, lost his position on the LNC and everything. And well, I'd already planned, I'm going to St. Louis for the convention, and then I might as well, while I'm out that far, go ahead and spend time with Lee and Dr. Mary Ruwart in Texas. So it was the weekend after the convention, and like I said, it's rare that Lee ever took a drink at all around me. And but he was feeling he wasn't intoxicated. He was just feeling a little chipper, and he said, "I think I'm going to run for president." I busted out laughing at him. I thought it was a joke. I didn't think he was serious, because really he just lost an election at the week prior. So his star wasn't as high as it had been in the party, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And I was thinking, what are you thinking? But then over the coming weeks, I figured out this guy's serious. So I better be serious. But to answer your question, really what it became, whether it was his first idea or not, we wanted to make sure that there was a strong anti-war presence and message at the convention during that nationally televised debate. Win, lose, or draw, we are going to be winners if we have Lee, or if anybody else takes the mantle and can do it. But we wanted it to be Lee, and it was. And we can get to that later. But I know we have a short time period, so I'll wrap it up. But basically, the real reason was to have a strong anti-war message that America needed to hear, and obviously, sadly, today still needs to hear.
Oh, I know. Well, now this was the year that Gary Johnson ran the first time for us too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what was it like running against Gary Johnson? I mean, did that give you any extra motivation?
It did, and I don't want to dominate this conversation because I know Brian's got a lot of things to say, but let me just say this about when Gary Johnson came in. It is unbelievable. It took our campaign, it forced us to pick up our game, and
Yeah.
our donations started going up. No, we love Gary Johnson. I considered him a friend. I mean, I'm more on the radical side of things
Mm-hmm.
as far as philosophy, but Gary was a great candidate. He brought a lot of good young people and some demographics that we are weak in. He, as far as females and minorities, he helped bring good people in the party, and a lot of those people are still with us today, thankfully. But our donations started increasing because some of the longtime people were tired of what they would call Republican carpetbaggers.
Yeah.
I didn't consider Gary a carpetbagger because he'd been in the Libertarian movement for a long time. His cred was good. He just had chosen the Republican Party as his outlet, and I respect that. That's strategy. That's not principles, and we can disagree on that and be friends. But really, it helped elevate our game, and it helped weed out a lot of the other competition. I'll just say, I admit when he got in, a lot of you may or may not remember R.J. Harris. He was a strong candidate, declared candidate, and he
Mhm.
actually had the momentum at that time. He was winning some straw polls. It was close, but usually he really had, he was doing really well. But I think the best thing that happened to our campaign was Gary getting in because it forced us to pick up our game, and it caused some other guys just to say, I can't do this, because it takes effort, time, and money just to get through the convention. Even if you run a shoestring campaign, it's a lot of effort. So I want to get Brian in on this. I know he's got
Yeah,
some story.
I had to think about that time when it asked me to join this conversation. It seems like it's been a long time ago, but it's only, I can go back to the previous campaign, 2008 campaign with Mary Ward and Lee. I think was you and Lee were working on her campaign, and that was, and I was asked to be. I specifically remember when she asked me to be her communications director for that campaign.
That's right.
But and I really remember that convention well, and the number about the 2008 convention when Mary was running against a real Republican interloper, in my opinion, Bob Barr, who came in at the last minute, was appointed to the national committee, and next thing you know, he's brought his minions to the national convention, and it was clear that he had an organized effort, and he basically won the nomination. And I don't know how many ballots. I think we went to 10 or 12 ballots.
It was 6, and that's still the record to this day.
Yeah,
The most ballots. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a real political convention. I mean, looking back, it was, at the time I was very, and I know, Jaime, you were too, disappointed. But the experience was, this was a real convention. This was serious stuff. And I know we all were upset when we lost the nomination. And even Mary being offered the vice presidential slot, I think, based on principle, she declined. But I remember making the comment that we were basically out politicked. Bob Barr, with all his faults, came in organized with his people and got the nomination. But when Lee called me, sometime probably after your conversation, and when he had made the decision, he called me to be his communication. I mean, there was no hesitation in my mind, but he called me with that whole, I am not at war. I think he borrowed Ray Huberger's motto, and that became our marching song. I am not at war.
Yeah.
And that struck a chord in me. So it was an interesting experience. But looking back on it, it was another instance where Gary Johnson was a hell of a lot better, more libertarian than Bob Barr ever was. But it was, again, it was this I don't know what the right word is, this obsession many libertarians have with, picking somebody from one of the establishment parties who is libertarian, sort of, maybe, or can be shaped, and making him a nominee. Gary was a good candidate, but really, I think there's some things about he actually was more libertarian in his lifestyle. I mean, one of Lee's articles, and one of our themes was, libertarianism is more than just a political philosophy; it's kind of a way of life. I think that's an article he wrote, and Gary Johnson was an example of that. But the fact is, we did have to work our butt off. And did RJ? I can't remember, Thomas, but did RJ stick through the end, or did he drop out? He dropped out. Yeah.
No, he dropped out. It actually, of course, Gary and Lee were the only two ones to qualify for the debate. The only other candidate that made the trouble to even go out was Carl Pearson. I'm sorry, I can't remember how Carl.
Yeah,
and he rested in peace. He's passed away since then. But I remember it was 16 to 18 people originally had filed with the FEC. I think, of course, most of those are not serious, and they're just trying to be, get their name out there. But anyway, when Gary got in, that really thinned the herd. If I can,
I'd make the comparison, and I in my mind, in my memory, the 2008 Mary Ruwart campaign and the 2012 Lee Wrights campaign was similar in the fact that there were a number of candidates. There were these two, Republicans that came in at the last minute, and there were a number of other libertarian candidates. But I remember the debates that we had on the road with Lee's campaign at some of the state conventions. I didn't go to all of them. I think you went to all of them, but I went to a couple. I remember having the debates, and there was some, it's the typical libertarian type debate that we agree on the basic principles, but there's some good nuances that were raised, and it was a civil conversation, even when we had significant differences in how you would approach something. I mean, so it was what politics should be with the establishment parties. That's my recollection of it. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is, maybe you don't want to. You may want to cut this part out, but
no,
go for it, man.
I really am, and I see it happening again. This infatuation that libertarians have with establishment party candidates.
Yeah.
Trying to find someone that is, we have two extremes. We want somebody who is libertarian, or somebody who think we can mold and make them our presidential candidate, so that we can get these votes. And then the opposite of that is we want some off the wall radical libertarian semi-anarchists and run them for president and think we're going to win votes. That's not the way it works.
Well,
the example of the 2008 to 2012 campaigns, I think, is that there were a number of candidates. They had different approaches to libertarianism. Some were even the former Republican candidates would have been good candidates. Bob Barr wasn't a bad candidate.
Yes, he was.
He just wasn't. The manner in which he came into the party was bad. That was a big, it was an anchor on him for the entire campaign. At least with Gary, he came in a little bit earlier. And I do remember Lee calling me, and I think it was in January, with the news that he had it on good authority that Gary Johnson was going to drop out and join the Libertarian Party and run president. And I know Lee said, this is the part you may want to cut out. I believe Lee told me, he says, it's his nomination to lose. That was based. So Lee knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But we stuck with it. And as a result, we had a damn good convention. We had a great debate. The nominating speeches were excellent. There was no personal attacks on anybody.
Mhm.
And I think we got good press in the outside press from it. So
Well, that's sort of like leads up to the one other question I really wanted to ask. And again, we can do another session or more, to like dig deeper, because there are a few things that have been raised that I would love to comment on, but I mostly wanted y'all to have the stage here. But what do you feel like is the lasting impact or the legacy of the Rights for President campaign in 2012?
I am not at war. I mean, I still think that. I just went back today and looked for a couple of his articles. Some of them are still online, thanks to website archiving. But his whole idea of, and he wasn't just talking about overseas wars. He was talking about being at war with ourselves, with each other in the party. And Lee, I know Lee had a reputation when he was in the National Party of being a fighter, being very passionate about it, and that kind of affected our campaign. People didn't believe what he was saying when he was talking about not, we shouldn't be attacking each other. We shouldn't be doing the personal, and this was during the reform, radical civil wars that were going on. Now we have other groups that are fighting in the party to take it over, and the real enemy's outside. We all acknowledge that, we all say that, but we don't really believe that, because we're constantly fighting among ourselves. And it's good to have a passionate discussion about policies and how we achieve libertarianism in our lifetime. That's good, but when it delves into personal attacks and dirty tricks and all that, that's not right. It's not helpful, and it's destructive, and it's not libertarian. So the legacy that I see is that the party has not grown up yet in the fact that we have a radical message. We have a message that resonates with the average American if we just project it right. And that doesn't mean watering it down or packaging radical ideas in, nice wrapping. That's not going to work either, because it's like a bait and switch. But we can express our ideas civilly and rationally. And it has to be somebody who is not a born-again libertarian, not somebody who is using the Libertarian Party as a platform.
But well, Thomas, did you want to add anything to that to help us land the plane, at least for this segment?
Yeah, the lasting impact is the staff that's still living and the fans that are still out there of Lee's. If we just had more money, I saw how particularly young people on the campaign trail, when he would speak to them, they would just be, their eyes would open up. And Lee just had that way of his message was simple. He didn't try to talk over people's heads. He spoke to the heart and from the heart. And the fact that we're still talking about, most people forget runners up, as far as LP nominations and stuff. But I'm proud of what our team accomplished. It was a team effort. And Brian was like the adult in the room a lot of times. He and Lee are quite a handful. I'm like Lee, I could get a little overly passionate.
Yeah.
With things I care about, that's kind of hard to manage sometimes. And Brian would be like I'll just say the wise older brother. But
you have to remember that I'm an old Barrett Goldwater conservative.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't until my later years that I realized Barrett Goldwater really was libertarian.
Oh yeah, he was ahead of his time.
The essence of conservatism and libertarianism. So, and Shane Killian doing videos. I think that was we may have been the first campaign that kind of do that as a regular basis, and putting.
Yeah, Shane. I can't thank Shane Killian enough. His work really elevated and gave us a professional branding, and it reached people. Still to this day, I don't get to. I need to take more time to work on it. As y'all know, we had the Million Vote March that came out. We didn't quit the campaign.
Yeah, that's right.
In May, when we lost to Gary, we kept it going through November with the Million Vote March project, and we picked a good election cycle because it was the first election cycle where we did reach 1 million votes. Now, was the Million Vote March responsible for that? Absolutely not. But hey, we did our part. It worked out. So
that's a good example of not only was Lee the runner-up but he stuck with the campaign, whereas in past it didn't happen with the runner. The runners-up usually, took their ball and went home, and then eventually left the party. That's why we run into this problem with trying to get somebody from the outside. But yeah, Lee stuck with it and ran that campaign, and that helped us get 1 million votes.
Didn't hurt.
All right. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We may want to do this again. Sometimes,
absolutely.
like I said, there's some things that I would like to dig a little bit deeper into, and we'll probably be able to dig up some video of Lee to go along with this. In fact,
it's wonderful to be here today. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be standing before you and be considered to represent my family to the American public. We can make a difference in 2012 and beyond, but we have to do that by being different. And that'll be easy enough because most of us are different already. Different enough to know that the only way that the federal government can create jobs is by firing bureaucrats. Different enough to know that the devastating war on drugs has got to be stopped so we can save precious lives in this country. Different enough to know that taxes, regulation, government agencies exacerbate our problems rather than solving our problems for us. Different enough to know that individuals are better to make their own decisions than to get bureaucrats involved. Different enough to know that we can take care of ourselves without any help at all. Different enough to know that we can make a difference by being different. Whatever happens here today, we're going to go forward. We're going to show America what libertarians are really all about. We did that last night. Last night was not so much about running for president as it was showing the American people that libertarians are not the boogeyman that everybody says we are. We have families, friends, dreams, just like all other Americans. We have many things in common. Sometimes the only thing that makes us different from other Americans is knowing that relying on government is not the answer for the problems we face in America. So I'll ask you once again the same I've asked everywhere I've been. Join me, my family. I am not at war. If we say that enough, if enough of us say it, they can't have them anymore. Thank you so much for this honor. Thank you.
Hello again, North Carolina, and thank you for joining us for the last episode of this season. It's been a wonderful season. I appreciate you going along for the ride. Season 3 of Liberty Inc. Today we have with us, first of all, our governor candidate and your LPNC treasurer, Mike Ross. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, thank you for joining. Then the lovely and talented and smart, the triple threat,
Spike Cohen.
candidates coordinator. We're getting there. He gets a little more than lovely. With Christina Aragues. How you doing, Christina?
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, that's fair. It's been a busy day. A busy day for
yes.
you. We are recording this on primary day. And then finally, the one person in the entire Libertarian Party who truly needs no introduction, the man, the myth, the legend, and if I'm being hyperbolic, sue me, but someone I really look up to, Spike Cohen. How are you doing today, Spike?
I'm doing great. I'm actually a quadruple threat. I'm lovely and brilliant and smart and Jewish, and it's
so,
in addition to that. So it's the whole package. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
No, we sincerely appreciate it. I will tell you before this, I told Brian if you didn't come on, we were going to steal your Jewish space laser button. So,
Well,
that
good
remains on
luck,
the-
because I don't. Where is it? Hold on. I had it.
Uh-oh.
over-
If half the world starts blowing up with space laser spike,
Yeah,
we're
listen.
blaming
If
you.
I get mad during the show, it's actually I disarmed it. I did a very unlibertarian thing and disarmed it, so we're all safe.
It was voluntary though.
It was a voluntary disarmament. I did not participate in the Jewish space laser controller buyback program, which is a total scam.
There we go.
And if I were, I would have just 3D printed one and brought a bunch of them and gotten the money, but it goes against my principles.
The whole idea today is talking about campaign stories with everyone here. But before we do, I have a question for you, Spike.
Okay.
I apologize up front if you get this question a lot. I'm sure you're annoyed with hearing it by now, but
Can't
in home
imagine what this
defense-
question is.
in a home defense situation, would you rather have an AR-15 or a shotgun?
Wow, home defense. I'm gonna go with an AR-15 just because Joe
Wow.
Biden said shotgun.
There you go, Mike. What do you think?
I mean, it wasn't the question I was hoping you were going to ask, but I've already admitted to team shotgun because, you know, I do keep a shotgun.
It's
for home defense.
honestly, I could go either way. I picked AR-15 because of the whole when Joe Biden said that he told his wife that you know, an AR don't use a rifle. If someone comes, just go out and shoot off a double-barreled shotgun, you know, which is much easier for a woman to shoot than an AR.
That's fair. This
Both
is-
barrels, same time. Yeah.
when I first became active in the LPNC, this is like 2 years ago now, actually before around the third rally in Gastonia. I think you spoke at that one, but we were sitting down eating barbecue. And I'm learning about guns. In the last 2 years, I've learned more about guns than I thought I was ever going to learn. But I was just like, they're talking about ARs. And I was like, which one is better, an AR or a shotgun for home defense? And the entire LPNC went like full libertarian, like shotgun here for shotgun. And it's been a 2-year thing. So we ask every guest that comes on.
Well, and it's you know, again, you can go either way. And honestly, if it were a semi-auto shotgun, which is not as common, I might even, although those tend to jam. The only part of besides the Joe Biden thing and just being contrary to Mike, although I didn't know that at the time, is, you know, in any kind of high stakes situation, not hunting or just shooting, in any kind of, like, you know, you're defending your home or whatever, anything that involves more muscle memory and more movement, you know, you're lucky to be able to tie your shoes or be able to blink or even remember to breathe in a situation like that. So, you know, anytime it's with a shotgun, you're having to pump, you're having to then pull, and then you're having to pump again. And as opposed to AR, you're just boom, 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 boom. You're just, you know, shooting. So, but you could go either way. And I'm sure much smarter people than me would come on here to explain why I'm not really a libertarian and you actually should pick a shotgun if in a home invasion situation.
This
I'm
is
dying
how-
over here as a military person. I'm dying because I'm like, guys, the question is where's the intruder and where are you at in your home? Because if you're
That's
first
fair
floor,
too.
shotgun. If I'm second floor, I want my AR. Like, it depends. How close is this vicinity, right? Like, and where do you have your gun situated in your home? I mean, this is a multi-layer question that can't be answered.
I don't know how I've never asked you that one. I mean, you've been on here. You must have been there when it got asked, but this is how intense it got. Our last 2 newsletters, our monthly newsletter. Last month, Justin Hinckley, our 2A issues coordinator, wrote an opinion article, "Shotguns are for birds, not bad guys." And then this month, the vice president of operations of Grassroots North Carolina wrote a response, "Shotguns are weapons from hell, so use them to send the bad guys there."
Mm.
I mean, this is an intense debate in the LPNC.
And also, birds aren't real. So I mean, if you know, so that's demonstrably false. Anyway, I know that there was ostensibly another reason for us to talk tonight.
Yes. So I wanted to tell some campaign stories or hear some campaign stories. Mine are not super interesting. I've only been campaigning for like 2 months, but it's actually a very good day. Christina, can I ask you the first question? How are the polls today?
It's very slow, very sad that they were slow, but it was very warm, fun, exciting. There's probably the best group of people, like canvas workers at the polls, you know. Everyone was getting along. We all a lot of us wanted the incumbents just to lose as long as that, because we had a lot of races. We had one race with 7 people, and we had to get it down to 2. So, we're like, anybody but this person. and we all are lined up with shirts like, anybody but this person. Just pick one. This one's a veteran. That one's a community leader. That one's a nice lady, right? Like, so it was nice that everybody got along. You meet a lot of people and you have a lot of fun. But it's sad when you see a low voter turnout. I think we had maybe 5%.
Charlotte just had its lowest vote turnout ever in the Democratic primaries. So enthusiasm for the politics,
People are
Well,
tired.
so I'm sorry.
People are tired.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're tired.
They're tired. It's also an off year and primary season as well. But even, the record turnout for Biden and Trump was like a roughly half of eligible voters. It's people are voting by not voting. They're saying, I don't care. Like, I've yet to hear an option that I think is worth voting for. And I think that if we counted non-votes as NOTA, as none of the above, NOTA would win almost every election. And it wouldn't even be close. And then we have anarchy.
It makes me
Yay.
wonder, where people really think the legitimacy comes from when, like, the vast majority of elected representatives were only affirmatively chosen by, maybe in a good day, 25% of the population that they're supposed to rule over. So like 75% didn't want this person to be in that job. But somehow we're all supposed to just be happy that these people are, there. So
fraction of a fraction.
So I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, and I do have some questions asked too. But on the last podcast with JJ Campbell and Andrew Kinsey, talking to JJ, and I forget the name of the organization he belongs to, but I'd seen the video before, and it's Jennifer Lawrence of all people. But she breaks it down, and she's got real studies. Like, I've looked into this; it's legit. If 100% of the population supports a law, or if 0% of the population supports a law, any random law, you throw a dartboard and pick a law, it's got a 30% chance of passing. Doesn't matter if people care. The politicians are doing what their donors tell them to do. And literally, we have no influence on it. Like, we make no difference. It's all a sham. Like, statistically a sham. Not even
So are we
like,
gathering here to tear it all down? Is that what's happening? I don't know. What's happening now?
Well, that is an awesome segue into my first question. So, Spike, I confess, I did a little research before this. I reached out to some people who know you, and I have a list of questions to ask you about campaigning. So the first question I'm supposed to ask is, talk about getting arrested in Miami.
We didn't get arrested in Miami. They wouldn't arrest us.
The attempt.
Yeah, we tried to get arrested in Miami. So there was we were in Miami to do an event. It was the last leg of the entire bus tour, which had been going on at that point for the better part of 2 months. And so I was doing there were 4 different legs. Joe did the first leg, I did the second leg, Joe did the third leg, and then I did the fourth leg. And it was the last stop. It was going to be this big thing. We were having an event at a place called Cuba Ocho, which is in downtown Miami on Calle Ocho, in like the Cuban part of Miami, as opposed to the non-Cuban part. And so we were gonna have fun. There was gonna be a salsa event, and we were gonna do salsa dancing and all sorts of great stuff. And I think we had about 150, 200 people sign up. So it was a decent amount of people that had signed up, pretty decent event. And then that morning, the evening before, the police showed up to Cuba Ocho. The venue was shut down. Was closed at the time. The owner had already closed it, and he was sitting in there having a cigar, and he live streamed it. The police came in and told him, 7 police cars showed up and said, you can't do, you are being shut down for, I think, 24 hours or some ridiculous thing. And so you can't do anything for 24 or 48 hours or 3 days or something like that, because you're violating COVID restrictions right now. He wasn't, and they knew that if he fought it, he'd win because he wasn't violating any of the rules that were in place at the time. And there was no lockdown or anything, so he was allowed to be open. And And so he reached out to us and he said, so you're not going to be able to use my location because they already said if I get if I violate this, then they'll take away my business license. Now, this is a man who fled communist Cuba decades prior, who was, has built Cuba Ocho, which is like an institution. It's a museum and a bar and a salsa club. We've actually gone there many times since and danced. Really great place. And they're infringing on his rights. And we believe it was because they didn't want to have a competing event on the same day as the Trump and Biden debate, which was happening in Miami. But regardless of why they did it, they did it. And so they said, so you can't come here. And I said, okay, then we'll just do it outside. We don't want to get this guy in trouble, but I'll get in trouble. And so when we showed up, we did the event. And someone had speakers, outdoor speakers, so we used those. And so instead of having about 150 or so people indoors where no one else would know what we were doing, instead we were out on the streets, doing call and response and talking with the crowd as they were going by, because it was a Thursday or Friday night. Anyway, it was packed. The whole street was packed with people. So we ended up interacting with thousands of people, including a bunch of cops that showed up. And we had already said to folks like, hey, listen, if you've got priors, if you just don't want to get arrested, we're out here trying to get arrested. We sent out, so if you don't want to get arrested for whatever reason, maybe, lay back or whatever. But we put out press releases saying we were going to do this and that we were openly in defiance of orders and all of this stuff. And they didn't do anything. They wouldn't arrest us. They just would not arrest us. And it was funny because Univision showed up. A bunch of Miami podcasters that got the press release, they showed up. One other local news station, I forget which, showed up. So there were a bunch of people there, and people were live streaming it and everything. People were on their phones, and I'm like, okay, great. This is going to get us some attention because the media was completely ignoring us the whole time. And I'm like, great, we're going to get some attention. And, it's good. This is good trouble. I'm going to get in some good trouble. They would not arrest me. They literally would not arrest me. So that's the story of me getting arrested in Miami.
All right. That's a good story. I was told very mysteriously, can't give details, ask Spike the story.
Yeah.
I don't think we've come close to getting arrested, Mike. I've been told by my wife that I'm not getting bailed out on the way to Gastonia. But I'm like, that's cool. It'll probably be quieter in jail.
Yeah, wow. I mean, we've had some moments that we decided that it wasn't worth getting arrested. There was one I could keep in mind that we probably would have gotten arrested if we didn't walk across the street. But that was the one where it was actually Joshua's hearing. Right, to get the body cam footage. There, Joshua was really kind of upset about what happened to Scotty Reed, right, where he was just standing on the street and they arrested him there. So like Joshua was ready and I was ready and willing, but that day was just too important with the things that were there. So
that wasn't the day to do that. Yeah,
it wasn't the day to do that. So, but I mean, if we couldn't convince Joshua to move, I wouldn't have moved either. So I would have been arrested, but we had to move on because it wasn't the time to stand for that in that moment. Get the body cam footage, then we can get arrested after that. But for that moment, it was
the closest I remember was it was that same night when I started the AR shotgun argument. When we were there, we had the petition and Joshua read the end of it, and he went over his 3 minutes, and they were like, "So your time is done." And Thomas Hill was like, "You let him finish," and people were ready, and they were like, "Okay, go ahead and finish." And he had 20 more seconds, but I was like, "We're that close to a riot." I mean, I don't know.
So that brings up something very important that isn't talked about a lot. They had ordered him to stop talking, and they had more than sufficient force to make him stop talking or to punish him for not talking. And even though you outnumbered them in the number of people, they got guns, they got tasers, they got tear gas, they got whatever else, and they also have at least in theory, the authority to use them, and they didn't. And the reason for that is because if government power was in and of itself a real thing, they would have told Josh to stop talking, and he either would have stopped talking or immediately been punished for that. But government power isn't actually what we think it is. government power is really just what they're willing to enforce and what we're willing to tolerate. And those things inform one another, because if we're not willing to tolerate something, it becomes a lot less expedient for them to try to enforce it. And so we've seen this with mask mandates and lockdowns and all sorts of things. When people say, hey, listen, do whatever you need to do, I'm not going to listen. Same thing that happened in Miami. We're not going to listen. They have to sit there and go, is this really worth enforcing? And if it's not, they don't. And so there are many times where going in and saying, listen, I'm willing to get arrested, I'm willing to get in trouble, I'm willing to get beaten, I'm willing to get hit, whatever. I'm not going to do what you're telling me to do, or I'm going to continue doing what you're telling me not to do. They'll often, I mean, you don't expect it, but they'll very often go, all right, well, I guess we'll let you do it then. And they always have to fall back to another position, because if they say, well, I guess we'll just let you do it, then they've just let the cat out of the bag. They don't have any real power. We can do whatever we want to.
I mean, COVID was the biggest evidence of that, right? Like, where you think of where the federal government's policy was, and you had all of the private businesses that all decided to put, little stickers 6 feet apart and directional arrows down the grocery store at the exact same time for some reason, regardless of which grocery store it was. But, people were just like, this is stupid. It's not doing anything. And, people just started ignoring it. The stores stopped enforcing it because, they put their stickers down, kind of did what they were told there and had no will. And then as soon as more people were saying, all right, we've had enough, when the science started to break down on the arguments for why it was mandatory, people said no. And then the government very quickly thereafter lifted kind of all of those things and
pretended like they had always supported that.
If we were still listening, be more defiant.
I'm down.
Yeah. Civil disobedience. There's a reason that the LPNC gives awards for civil disobedience, because if the masses participate in civil disobedience, there's really no way to do anything about that. So.
Law really is just mass compliance. I mean, to an extent. Yeah, philosophically, you can delineate like actual crimes of violence. But when you talk about just going along with sort of arbitrary restrictions, it's nothing but mass compliance. During COVID, one of the things that jumped out at me the most. So I turned 40 during COVID, and I'm from DC, and 2 of my friends from DC came down that July. So we're like, July is like the peak of the lockdown. Like most of the country is having a panic attack. And I go pick them up from the airport, and they're like, "Were people in the airport not wearing masks?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't really wear a mask anywhere." They're like, "Nowhere?" And I'm like, "I do it at the doctor if it's other people, because I don't want to freak other people out. Like there's a respect thing.
Right.
There's nowhere else. And like, if you're not, I'm not getting mad at you. It's just, that's a July. That's where I was. Yeah. And they're like, people in DC wear masks when they're running outside. And I'm like, well, look at DC. Like, but it proves the whole arbitrary nature of it. Like there was no rhyme or reason. There's no sensibility to it.
No.
We should be careful, because Christina loves masks and vaccine mandates, like loves them.
As the chemical biological warfare officer, I will it is fake. I can't. Yeah. I can't with that. You know that.
Well, before I ask Spike the next question, Christina, have you ever been or almost been arrested in a political capacity?
No. I feel very sad, slightly depressed.
It just proves that male privilege is a lie and attractive female privilege is a thing.
No, my son and I, we call ourselves protest tourists. So we have gas masks that fitted for both of us, and first aid stuff. And we like to go to protests if we believe or not believe in whatever they're saying, just to listen and see firsthand what's really happening. So the media is not telling us, and we've been to some really great ones. And I always do like a military assessment of the area to make sure if something happens, these are where you evacuate, that sort of thing. But
I'm going to the nenext protest with you. I just stumble in, like, I hope I don't get hurt.
We've learned a ton. We've been interviewed a lot. I mean, been on the news a bunch, and it's never gotten to a negative space. I guess we're just lucky. I mean, actually, when they tried to burn our market house down, we were 100 feet from it, but we weren't right there, right? We're just watching it. And all the cops had left our area. So if you guys aren't familiar, the market house in Fayetteville, like they tried to put it on fire, but it's bricks. So that was fun. Two guys caught themselves on fire, and they were just a few feet from us.
Wow.
But when that happened, as we were going in towards the protest, every police officer in downtown was like leaving, like bugs, just leaving. It was the weirdest thing. So there were no police officers left, and they didn't come back into town till 9 o'clock that night.
Crazy.
So no.
All right.
I
That's a
feel
pretty
left
good
out
story.
now.
You got intense for a second. All right, we'll flip it to lighthearted again. So Spike, next question for you. This
Yes.
is what I was told to ask you. Ask Spike about Hulk Hogan and duct tape for birds.
This isn't a campaign story.
Oh.
I mean, I'll tell the story. Yeah, so
I
at
was
my
intrigued.
so at my mom's bedroom window, I was talking with her and asking her how she was doing, and she said, "Well, I mean, I guess I'm doing okay, but I haven't been getting much sleep because starting at around sun up, around like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, something like that, a bluebird starts knocking itself into my window over and over again. And as soon as I walk up to the window, it stops. And so I'll sit there for a while and it stops. And then I'll go and lay back down and it starts, every 20 seconds or so banging into the window. And so we figured out it must have been, if you weren't standing there, it must have been seeing itself in the reflection, and so it would attack the window, or it was insane. Either way. And so we're like, well, we got to put something, something there. And I'm looking around my mom's house where I lived as a child, and we couldn't find anything to hang that wasn't creepy to hang, and because her neighbors would see this. And so I found one of my old Hulk Hogan wrestling buddies. I don't know if I'm dating myself to explain it, but it was basically a large stuffed toy that you could wrestle as a kid. And so I put it up, and I left it, kind of leaned it to see would that stop the bird, and it did. So then I just put duct tape, electrical tape all over it. And it was up there for 4 months before we finally, because we'd take it down and the bird would immediately go right back at it. So we did this. So we took it down one day. I'm like, all right, this bird had to have given up. And apparently it's either gone away to another place or just gave up or what. But so now Hulk is down, but Hulkamania won again.
There you go. Have you ever met Hulk Hogan?
I have no, but I went to have lunch with my brother in Clearwater, which is where he lives, where Hulk lives. And we were leaving a restaurant and we're pulling out of the parking lot right as he was pulling in. And so I didn't meet him, but I was 4 feet away from him, hey, that's Hulk Hogan. So yeah.
There you go. And you've met Kane.
A few times, yeah. We're on first name basis. Actually.
Very cool.
Yeah. First name basis with Kane. Yeah.
I had an Ultimate Warrior. It was like the My Buddy Wrestling edition. I know exactly what you mean. The big stuffed dolls.
Yeah. And they were like this, and you could hook under their arm and suplex them and all that stuff. Typical kid toy type thing. And you can also put them up on a window and scare birds away.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Maybe proving that birds actually aren't real.
That one was really trying something. That was a malfunctioning drone. Yes.
Maybe it was trying to, break through the window to spy on your mom,
Maybe,
there you go.
Very possible.
They knew what she had bred. Well, so that story is actually kind of sweet. And that's the next thing I was supposed to ask about. And it's good because Mike and Christina, you can comment on this too. So I was talking to Brian about this, about just the people you met on the bus tour and driving your bus driver crazy because you made him stay out so you could shake hands with everyone, but just connecting with everyone. And I know, Mike, you've been going to all these events and meeting with people, and Christina, you're always on the move.
Yeah, so my first bus driver didn't have a problem with it. The second one had an issue because he was used to, I guess Joe had a much more rigid schedule. But the way I saw it, I'm doing these events and I would meet, anywhere from I think the least number of people we ever had an event was, 50 to 75 people. And the most we ever had was several hundred that, were crowding around the butt. And the thing is, I met people who had slept in their cars because there weren't, again, these were during lockdowns and stuff. There were no hotels open, or there were, but they couldn't afford them. I met a few people that slept in their cars. They drive however many hours that they lived from the event, and they'd sleep in their car overnight to make sure that they were there as soon as I got there. And I'd hear stories of people that, had, driven 12 hours because they lived in, like, especially out in the Midwest and stuff. They lived, in like, I don't know, Kansas or something like that. And found out that I was going to be on the other side of the state. So they came out, and I'm thinking, if these people are going through all of this just to see me talk, I can take 2 minutes to say hi to them. And if the time allows, maybe a few minutes to talk with them, and they can get a selfie and I can sign something for them and whatever. Like, it didn't seem right for me. It's one thing if, like, 100,000 people showed up or something that was mathematically impossible for me to be able to do. But, even an event that has like 500-600 people, I can say to them, hey, listen, guys, I got to get out of here in an hour, so I can only give each of you about 30 seconds to a minute, so let's a few seconds, but let's get through this, and I'll get to see it, talk with as many of you as possible. And, and we made it work, but yeah, that meant that I was very often, I would speak, at an event that was supposed to be 2-3 hours long, and I ended up leaving, 5 hours later because I'd spend 2-3 hours making sure I talk with everyone. It felt like the right thing to do at the time. First of all, we're asking for these people to vote, not just vote for us, but volunteer for us, donate to us, donate to other candidates, run for office themselves, support other candidates. And it just seemed like the right thing to do, to give them 3 minutes of time just to connect with them very briefly. And, it meant something to me, and it also meant that I didn't sleep much. But yes, I felt like it was the right thing to do.
What's the difference? And because Mike, so you're out, and in particular, you do like the debate or a local affiliate meeting versus when you're at like a county fair. What's the difference for all of you from your perspective when it's like a friendly environment like that, where the people came to see you, versus where you're like out at an event and you're trying to build bridges with people who don't know what libertarianism is, who you are, what you're running for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just still upset that Spike's not our vice president, because he clearly was averaging bigger crowd sizes than Joe Biden. But I'm just, I'm hearing that, and I don't know if a single person has ever camped out the night before or drove thousands of miles because they wanted to hear Joe Biden speak.
I think a few from Ukraine and China, but that was it.
Yeah, maybe. But he probably paid for the flights over, so they could participate. But yeah, I mean, I think that when I'm going around, as a first-time candidate to meet other libertarians in the state, I like a friendly environment, because it's great to just be able to meet everybody, right? Like I think the conversations, and I'm not the type of person, and I know my primary opponent wants to hit me on it. I'm not the politician that's going to come in scripted. I very rarely kind of do those things. So I enjoy those kind of events, and I think it's just the best opportunity to just spend some time with people, right? That's something that I saw. I've known Spike for a little while now, so kind of seeing how Spike ran the campaign and interacting with him. We talked about a lot of those things beforehand. So I think that's something I try to do is spend some time with anybody who came out there for any reason. If they want to spend some time and they're, thinking about voting for me, or volunteering for my campaign to phone bank, or like they put in some effort. So I feel like it's almost the bare minimum that as long as I'm able to, now Spike, I don't have 600 people coming to something I'm doing, or even 200, but if we get to that point, right, I want to do it the same way kind of Spike does, right? Because when you connect with someone, I'll tell you one thing, like, the uniparty's not doing that. The big politicians are counting on the fact that they have well-funded machines to bring people in, and that the letter on the ballot next to their name is really all of their hopes and dreams lying on that. Because if someone really connects in a group, and I think some of our local candidates I think are really going to shock the system with kind of the local status quo in some races this year. but I think that's the way to do it. And by connecting genuinely and showing that you're a real person to every person you come in contact with, I think that's really been exciting because on the campaign trail, I try to treat the same thing, whether it's friendly or hostile. Most places, I don't know if I've been anywhere hostile yet, other than I guess maybe the Gastonia City Council meetings, but that's a different kind of hostility, right? I haven't really been to, even my one debate, Spike gets a lot of time to debate, communists and things like that, where it's not a friendly debate. My only real debate was with another libertarian, so even that's kind of somewhat friendly. So
What about you, Christy? I mean, you're always like, your job is out there convincing everyone to change their minds.
Yeah, I've never really been to like a friendly event. I don't have anybody. I mean, I knock doors a lot, and I have a lot of people, that I don't know really well, and they know me, and that's exciting. That's really fun. But I mean, I've never been to any event where it's a bunch of libertarians. I was super excited today that one of the polls, there was another female libertarian actually registered, like,
Wow.
in my precinct. I was like, no. And she was working at the polls for somebody too. And we were opposing teams technically, but her lady was fantastic too. So we were like, we'll split hairs later. But mostly, it's all, mostly Democrats here, and that's fine. And a lot of unaffiliated, that's fine. A lot of Republicans, but you just stay positive and you keep a good attitude. And I've only been torn down a few times at the polls. There's a lot of racial issues here. I get called immigrant, all kinds of fun things at a very specific poll in our area, just terrible things. And I'm like, well, my parents were. It's just silly. It's silly.
Most people's parents and grandparents were immigrants.
Yeah,
like most Americans, if you go at least back to great grandparents, none of them were here prior to that. Very few in the, of millennials or Gen X people, very few of us have great grandparents that are from here.
It was ridiculous. Spike doesn't know, but I ran for a soil and water campaign here. I got about 36,000 votes and I lost by about 50. It was very painful. And I have a master's in geological engineering, so it was it made sense type thing. Right. I thought I was going to lose by a few thousand. So when it came to that small amount, I was picking in my head the very negative things some people were saying, were like, just vote this person because they were our blue color or our red color. Not red color. The Republicans actually were for me, but they're like, it's blue team. I was like, yes, but and there was a fellow military member that was there, and I was like, my qualifications versus this person's, and mine are significant. He goes, well, you didn't choose to be blue. I was like, oh. And then I said some very special words in very nice ways. And he's
not appropriate for my family podcast.
Doesn't just looking at Rob's hometown show you that qualifications for most people don't seem to matter at all?
Yeah.
Well, and that was kind of my point when I did it too. I was like, watch, I'm going to not pick red or blue and I won't win, even though I'll be the most qualified and work the hardest. And I'll have all, the most organic support.
I would imagine, because I came, it was a slightly more than 50 votes that we lost by, but I would imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, it would almost be worse to lose by 50 than by a few thousand, because if it's a few thousand, you're like, man, I really, I got pretty close. I tried my best. But if it's 50, it's like, crap. Like, if only I had told that guy something that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so close.
Exactly. Early voting is across the street from my kid's school. And about 100 people line up at that spot, right, in the morning. And I couldn't get my kids, and I wasn't being mean enough to get them.
Christina froze in a great position.
Time, I probably would have won that one day.
Yeah. That is brutal. But listen, that's incredible that you came that close. But yeah, I know I would be like, man, if I had just, during my lunch breaks, I could have gone and talked to like the barista or something. Like, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Good job though.
The entire team sports aspect of politics is
extremely annoying.
Well, it's mind boggling, but it's also so obvious why it's going on. So in Charlotte, there's not really a Republican Party. I mean, there kind of is some of the suburbs, but not really in the city. But the Democrats have split into two factions. There's like a very progressive wing, and then there's the mayor and her contingent. And the mayor has actually endorsed a Republican candidate for the mayor of Huntersville, which is the city just north of us, because like it's just so bizarre. Robert Party, by the way, if you're listening, Robert Party is a terrible human being, and do not support him in any way. That's an aside, but I'm not biased or anything.
Okay, I won't then.
We did this emailing calling campaign to try and get so we don't have civil
cancel Robert Party campaign video production.
So
anyway, go ahead.
They have, so in North Carolina, there's no civil asset forfeiture, but there's a workaround with this program they have with the federal government. I forget the name. It's something horribly dystopian, like the Friendly Helping Program or something. But I'm not even kidding.
Google it. I know exactly.
They should call it that. They should call it that.
But so what happens is if you're on a task force with the feds and they take something with civil asset forfeiture, they can give back. And so Huntersville was getting like 280,000, and they would not say if it was from civil or criminal asset forfeiture. So we got a bunch of people to email the town board, and what's normally a routine proposal ended up taking 40 minutes. And then Robert Party comes on and gives like this 10-minute speech about how he was a drug cop in New York, and these are not good people. These are MS-13 fentanyl pushers who want to kill your kids. It was horrible.
Then prosecute them, find them guilty of it, and then take whatever their ill-gotten gains are. Like, you don't just steal someone's anyway.
There are a couple of cases in North Carolina. A dude got arrested for being black in his car in Mooresville, and they took 14 grand from him.
Yep.
And the courts,
that's civil asset forfeiture.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the courts have like censured the town of Mooresville because they gave it to the Department of Homeland Security and they won't give it back. This is a crazy one. There's a couple of just really bad ones in North Carolina. But so it turns out this guy, Robert Party, and I don't have the details, so I don't like to say bad things about people. He's a terrible person, but that's who the mayor.
Isn't that a common trend in politics nowadays?
He's
there like someone else that was claiming they were there.
He's not even good at hiding it. Just walks around tiring on the rocks or something.
Well, I tried to look it up, Rob. I didn't see what it's called, but I did see that we split it 50-50 with the federal government, whatever seized, but our 50% goes to education. So it's good for you, right? If you're hosting seized, as long as it goes to kids, right?
This makes me so mad. The education
do they reappropriate education budget like they do with the lottery?
That's exactly what they do.
It's like the education lottery, but this lottery is who gets robbed by the cops today.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Insanity.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But yes, so the progressive wing of the Democrats do not like the incumbent mayor. So like, and people, I'm not sharing all my views. I'm answering my questions honestly, but they're like, what do you think of the police? And I'm like, I like the police. I don't like criminals. When cops break the law, they're criminals, not the police. They should be charged and tried. And they're like, yeah, we like that too. And I'm like, all right, we're connected on something. Yeah. And then they're like, what do you think of the universal, we have this centrally planned development ordinance, and I hate it. And if you get rid of it, you get more restrictive zoning restrictions. And I understand that. But my plan is to then get rid of those. It's a two-step thing, but they only ask about step one. So I'm like, yeah, I want to get rid of the UDO. Like, yeah, we do too. Like, you didn't ask me about step two. I'm not offering.
Yes.
Sorry, I got way sidetracked there.
Good sidetrack.
But good times all the time. Yeah. So, and Christina and Mike, you need to chime in with stories on this one if you have similar ones. But I'm supposed to ask you, Spike, and there's someone who actually wants to hear this. The 3 best times you have been salsa dancing.
Well, I'll tell you. So one that ranks up there was actually that one in Miami. Because we were dancing in on Calle Ocho, which is like one of the, you know, the legends of salsa in the Myrtle Beach area, or the Myrtle Beach area, the United States. Salsa, you know, it's huge there, and you know, we're dancing with, you know, an illegal setup with, you know, outdoor speakers just blaring music and dancing there, and essentially waiting for the cops to rip me away and arrest me, and it never happened. And what's crazy is so many people that are there know how to dance. They go on Calle Ocho and dance. So we're grabbing people from the crowd and dancing with them, and it was really cool. And it went on until about 2 or 3 in the morning. We started the event at, I think, 7 or 8 p.m. Did some speeches, but it was cool because I didn't just give my typical speech. I said, I want to hear from folks out here. How have the lockdowns affected you? How have they? And so people just started coming up and telling their stories. And I'd say a couple little things, and I'd give because I had a bullhorn, and we gave the bullhorn to the next person, and then I'd take it back, and we did that for about an hour or so. And then I'm like, well, we came here to salsa dance, so let's dance. And we played, turn on the music and danced for like 6 hours or something like that.
Wow, nice.
So,
all right.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite times. And then, trying to think campaign related dancing. I liked, Tasha and I danced at the, this was also in Florida, at the Libertarian convention. And they're like, can you dance a little bit? We want some B-roll. And I'm like, that's a weird reason to dance, but okay. And so we did some dancing, and we were the only people there that knew how to dance at the, you know, the Libertarian convention. And so we danced to a song, and then someone made a video out of that. But they did it where it was like slow-mo. So like we're dancing, and my wife looks perfect. She looks like model-esque while she's dancing, and you know, it's showing her like, you know, flowing like that, and a big smile on her face. And you look over at me, and I'm like, you know, like I look like an absolute goofball because first of all, you know, I'm concentrating. I don't smile. Like I'm not photogenic, and so I'm not smiling. I'm like doing whatever. But you know, also because of the slow-mo, it makes me look even dumber because I'm like, you know, got my tongue sticking out or whatever, trying to make the move work. And if you were watching it in regular speed, it wouldn't look nearly as weird. But it looked pretty weird with me with that. So that was a fun time as well.
Better or worse than shaving half your face?
Oh, the shaving half my face was a huge power play. And that was actually a win for me. That was a win because I went to Walmart and put that up. Yeah, that was a few years ago. I was shaving and I had using an electric razor, and the battery died partway through, almost halfway through, and I thought I'm like, oh, I'll use my spare razors. I didn't have any, and then Tasha had left for the day. We were down to one car, and because the other one was in the shop, and no, we had a car, but we didn't have any razors there, and I couldn't ask Tasha to get any because she was, you know, off doing whatever she was doing. And so I went to Walmart and I walked through there and I got razors. And it was funny because I walked in, and when I'm checking out the razors, they laughed because, you know, figured it out. But yeah.
Where were you when that happened?
With the razors?
Yeah, what city? Were you at home?
Myrtle Beach. Yeah, I was home. Yeah.
So Myrtle's kind of there with a lot of North Carolina. Walmart, once you got to Walmart, you probably fit in like, oh, he's got the old half face going on.
I had one of the.
Does Spike live in Myrtle?
Yeah, I live in Myrtle Beach.
Oh my God, I want to go surfing again. My surfboards are down there. Now I'm excited. Okay, I'm on vacation.
Oh, wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Hey, keeping with the dancing theme. So Christina, I just feel like you definitely dance. And I feel like it's a little racist of me to assume that, but it's more because you're a fun person, not because you're Spanish.
Wow.
I like
Is it the Hispanic last name? Is it that?
I mean, I would assume that anyway, but I know you, so
I mean, the Hispanic last name probably means you have more rhythm than Rob.
Yes, I can dance. Yes, I do dance. I don't think I have any great stories about dancing. Sorry.
Mike, you got any?
Yeah, afraid no meaningful dancing stories, Rob. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
I've got lots of Army stories, like the time I negotiated my soldiers to get released by the Russian mafia when they decided to go to a strip club in a Eastern European country. That was fun. And like the only time I used my Russian.
I'm listening.
That's dancing related, right? There was probably
That's a
dancing
type
going
of
on in the
dance.
club.
It was a strip club. I told them, you've got 10 hours. Don't go to a strip club. Don't go to a casino. Go to these places. You'll be fine. And
Don't be kidnapped by the Russian mob.
Yeah. And that country spoke a different language. I mean, it was an Eastern European one, but taxi cabs and strip clubs. That's where I used my Russian.
That sounds like a good story.
Yeah. When you're the only female.
How we lost her again.
50 dudes, and you're the one in charge. That's what happens.
Fair
And
enough.
that story sounds a
Does
lot
my
weirder when
internet
it cuts
going out?
off.
Do I need to tell?
I don't.
Yeah, I was just
So
saying.
here's what we heard. So it's kind of crazy when you're a female and with 50 dudes. And that's, again, completely different story.
I just
And
at
you're
the strip
one
club.
in charge of all.
There
the-
we go. Okay,
Uh-huh.
that's much
I was like
better
the mama
context.
duck, right? I was
That's
like,
fair.
I felt like a mama duck the whole time. Like
much more wholesome story now.
soldier.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm in this tight dress, like wandering the city, trying to have my own fun, which just
Oh,
consists
so
of eating
it is a
food,
little
but,
bit
you
of
know.
I get it now.
Yeah.
It's still more wholesome than the other version.
Wait.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, my stories are way more wholesome. The only cool thing I could do is get them free shots a lot. Lots of free shots.
what.
We were-
Can you say what country it was?
Yeah, I think it's probably fine. We were in Georgia.
Oh, okay,
Borders
so
Russia.
like
Yeah,
it's
we were
a
in Georgia.
semi-westernized sort of.
Their freeway's called George Bush Freeway in English. Like,
Yeah, but I think that Iraq
love
used to
us.
have that too.
but no, we were in the city, and we were at the top of this street, and I looked down, I looked far, and I'm like, those are Marines.
And 50 guys.
That's a
Like,
great
How do you
pose.
know? It's like, I was like, are you serious, ma'am? I'm like, yep. Did you lose me again?
We did, but it was fun.
Briefly.
Your timing-
It wasn't as bad as last
Oh.
Yeah,
time.
we got most of the story.
I'm just. Oh, I'm sorry. Anywho, yeah, I got my soldiers all free shots from Marines because I can tell a Marine a mile away, literally.
There you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
That's it. No dancing stories.
So Eastern Europe aside, it is a different world, both in Eastern Europe and in a Myrtle Beach Walmart on a Friday night. So I think there's some strong parallels there.
Yes.
So I got two questions left. Because
Sure.
I want to end. I'm trying to end on a high note. And so the first one, just for everyone, because I do want to leave with like a good feeling. This is the finale going out. So like one person you met as you were out campaigning for yourself or someone else who like really left an impression on you, like a good story, someone you stayed in touch with, someone you helped, someone who helped you. And this is for all three of you to answer.
So my problem right now is I have so many that are like that I'm trying to decide which one.
Share a few. I mean,
Yeah. So and a lot of them were grouped under talking to people who during the lockdowns, during the, because we were coming in many states towards the end of lockdowns. So like we were getting in there July, August, and so forth. So, some states, either their lockdowns had stopped or they were just now on more restrictions, but not full on lockdowns. And a lot of people walked away from that going, what the hell was that? Because when it was happening, especially, March, April, even into May, it was Republicans and Democrats 100% on board. It didn't matter who was in charge. You were getting locked down. And it was, a lot of people walked away from that going, am I the only one who thought that was the stupidest thing ever? Because it was still where, you could get in trouble for saying it on social media. It was still kind of considered, it was sort of like an emperor's new clothes thing where, a lot of people didn't realize they weren't the only one thinking it. And everyone had been kind of socially conditioned to say it was good. We were the only ones that it was pretty mainstream for us to be like, we're not doing any of this crap. And so a lot of people, when they'd hear, a VP candidate was in town, they'd show up and be like, all right, let's see what this guy has to say. And the first thing that I would start with is, who's ready to end these lockdowns for good? And so a lot of people would come in, or very often that's what I would start it on it. And I always, if I didn't start on that, it was one of the first few things I would say. And so, you know, a lot of these people, they're showing up and they're like, oh, wow, a politician who's actually against this stuff and was against it from the beginning, right? So I got to connect with a lot of people who were like, I didn't know that there was a political movement that was against it from day one. And I said, yeah, it's us. And so there are a lot of stories like that. And then also a lot of stories of people who had been through different criminal justice issues. And I talked a lot, still do, but I talked a lot about criminal justice reform. And so I had people who came because, you know, they said, I can't even vote because I have this, you know, whatever it is on my record, or, you know, I was a drug addict and I, you know, went through all these different things and ended up in prison for distributing because I was just trying to feed my habit. And I had never heard someone talk about that, whatever that thing was, until I saw your appearance on this show or your interview in our local news or whatever. I've never heard a politician actually talk about the thing I went through. And so it was those kinds of things that told me I needed to keep sharing this message. Like I already was going to anyway, because it's the right thing to say, but it really drove home that not only was it the right thing to say, but that there were people on the other end who were hearing it saying, finally, someone is saying this. That was a very often the highlight of each of my days, was someone coming up and going, I didn't know anyone else was saying this in politics. So that was a big thing for me.
That's awesome. Mike,
awesome.
Christina?
Yeah, I Spike got to campaign when there was a lot of fun, you know, a lot more fun stuff going on on there. You know, campaigning now, I know, especially knowing that we want to leave it on a positive note. You know, I've made an effort recently. I want to talk to the Libertarian candidates, right? Because I'm a big believer that our wins are going to start at the local level when we can embrace ideas like nullification and look at our founding documents where we can push back. And I've met so many local candidates lately that one of them, you know, since we're narrowing it down, because I know Spike has a bunch, I'm gonna give a shout out by name, and I'm gonna say LPNC candidate Chris Richardson. I met with him a couple weeks ago, and we were just chatting about his campaign. He's running for town commissioner in a real small town, right? I think it has like, you know, between 500 and 600 people. And you know, I kind of had my governor candidate hat on, my treasurer hat on, but basically it's like, hey man, we want to help you get elected. What can we do? Yeah. And he kind of came back and he said, you know, I'm just going to go knock on every single door in my town, talk to my neighbors. Cause he's currently operating from a position where he's actually on the town council now, but he was appointed. And, you know, seeing that where we're seeing people at the local level who are just going to really take control and take ownership and go out there in their communities. Right. Like, and he told me all these libertarian things that, you know, since he's been on the board, he's done, like, you know, small town like that. Why's the mayor have such a big salary? And I think he like cut the mayor's salary by 2/3 or something like that. Like, those are the kind of things where we can make meaningful differences to save taxpayers money. And to just see, you know, that spirit of, I'm going to just talk to every single person, talk about what's going on in the town and what I'm doing to save their money and not be one more leech like the federal government and the state government. So I was so encouraged by that, you know, that one, I think he's, you know, it's always dangerous to put those predictions out there into the world. But one, I think he's going to win. And two, I think he's going to use libertarian principles to serve his community and ultimately make his neighborhood better, which is what it's all about, right? That's kind of what we're all fighting for, is better liberty, better freedom, less tyranny for all of us. So that's my encouraging kind of campaign trail is all these local candidates I've been meeting, but Chris Richardson specifically.
Oh yeah. What about you, Christina?
For me, I mean, I met my current business partner, Carrie Stallworth. She was working on a judge's campaign. And we just kept talking at the polls. And I was like, you're a libertarian. She's like, am I? It's like, yeah, you're
Carrie's awesome.
Yeah, she's great. And she'd worked on several campaigns and we finally just laid it down. And I was like, you're a full libertarian. Then she sends me a picture of her daughter, who's a stewardess at Delta. And her daughter has an AR-15 and like a tank top. And she's like 23. And I was like, you raised a libertarian. Like, what is that? Like, I was laughing so hard. But yeah, no, I think, you know, it was really awesome meeting people like her. And then we started a business to try to help people, you know, make a difference in the community. And then through that, we've formed alliances that whenever our city, and you've seen it, Rob, whenever both of you, I think have seen it. Yeah, you too, Mike. Whenever our city tries to get a little overbearing and take more power, we all get together regardless of party affiliation, and we work together and speak against it and fight against it. And we've won twice now. So we went against a mass that they wanted to do here. And then when they wanted to shorten, the city council wanted to shorten their own term limit. So they wanted, instead of 2 years, no, they wanted to
They wanted to stagger the boards, right?
Yeah, and they didn't
Yeah,
want us to
extend their
vote on
term.
it. They wanted to vote on it amongst themselves.
Of
So
course.
that's
With a
been really
mayor
great,
who
meeting all
was
those activists.
under,
What's that?
I mean, the mayor there was under investigation for corruption, was able to shut down his own investigation. One of the council members resigned in protest.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
it's almost, like I say, it's almost as bad there as it is in Gastonia.
Fable's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
You know, we do have a really unique opportunity. I was thinking about, I don't know if you all, so I'm an English major, I'm a nerd, but the Vonnegut novel Timequake, where everything goes backwards to from 2001 to 1991 for 10 years, and then it switches and forward again, and no one knows what to do. And the character Kilgore Trout goes around. He's the hero of the early part, at least. He says, "You were sick, but now you're well, and there's work to do." And I love that. That's like where we are right now. There's such an opportunity. People hate the Uniparty. The only thing they hate more is the other side of the Uniparty. We just feel like we need to give them better, to give them a better option. But so, Spike, I will tell you, when this ends, I'm going to put your speech from Reno on there. So here's my last question for you, or statement,
Yes.
or whatever. Give us some hope.
Mm.
Like give us a reason to hope.
Look at the flip side of any time that you're in this, you know, increasingly dystopian or authoritarian time is when more and more people wake up more than ever before. Every time I go to a libertarian event and I say, who is here because of the lockdowns? At least half the crowd raises their hands. And if I say, who was here because of the invasion of Iraq or something that happened, you know, in the 2000s, almost every, or you know, sometimes since the 2000s, almost everyone raises their hands. And, you know, that we often get frustrated by that because we'll say, well, you know, we need more second generation libertarians. But I'm seeing the fact that this movement has largely sprung up in the last 20 years or so. Like there's the vast majority of people that are involved are just recently, relatively recently, finding out about it. We're growing in number as a movement, and whatever's going on with the party, whatever's going on with individual candidates or anything like that, the reality is an increasing number of people recognize that this status quo is failing them. Even if they still think one side of the ruling class is marginally better than the other side, they still recognize that the status quo is failing them. Even if they look at the Libertarian Party and go, I'm not 100% sure if that's what I want, they realize that the status quo is failing them. And that is the first step. It's incumbent upon us to help them take those other steps, not by trying to just impose our ideas on them and say, oh, well, you need to read this and report back to me, or I'm going to tell you why you're wrong about all these other things, but meeting them on this thing that they already agree with us on, whatever it is, and then helping them take that final journey to becoming a libertarian. Most of us, Christina excluded, most of us weren't always libertarian. I was a rabid neocon. When I watch what people right now are saying in relation to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I said worse than that routinely and thought even worse than what I would say. But I learned because people met me where I was on things that I agreed with them on as libertarians, and then helped drag me across the finish line to becoming a libertarian. It didn't happen overnight. For me, it took years. For others, it will take years. Some, they'll get it instantly. Some, it'll take them days. Some, it'll take them weeks. Some, it'll take them months or years, and some, they won't get it at all. But the reality is, so many people are ready to hear a stark alternative to the status quo. We are that alternative. And so it is incumbent upon us to reach them where they are. And we are going to win because the truth is on our side. And when the truth's on your side, you are eventually going to win because everyone sees the truth at some point. So we just have to keep doing the work. And when we do the work, it's going to be us that people remember. They're going to remember the people, the trailblazers who made this happen. And I'll end on one more thing. And I've said this many times. So if anyone follows me, you've probably already heard this, but I'll say it again. Maybe you need to hear it again. It can be frustrating how relatively few of us there are. The American Revolution ended or began with far fewer people than the number of people at a given state libertarian convention. And that was an assembly of people from across the country, and it was relatively a few dozen people. You don't need to start with numbers. You start with people who say, I'm not going to bend to anyone's will anymore. This is my line, and I'm not going to let anyone cross it. And I don't care what threats there are. I don't care if people are going to tell me this is a bad idea. I don't care about any of that, because the alternative to continuing to fight is to just shrug my shoulders and say that everything's fine and I'll just have to live with it. That was unacceptable to them, and it's unacceptable to us, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. And when we win, we're who will be remembered. You are who will be remembered. So keep doing the work, and we are going to win. Be of good cheer, and know that it always looks like you're losing until you win.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
I feel like a coach just gave us the motivational speech.
Well, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready.
Now get out there and score that touchdown.
I really needed that. After a primary day, I really needed that.
Well, and we need you, Christina. So
Fire.
Mike, hashtag fire the uniparty, firetheuniparty.com. Mike Ross for governor. Give Mike a follow. Christina, what do you want to plug?
Mike Ross for governor.
There we go. And Spike,
Find your local candidates.
there you go. And youarethepower.net, right?
Yes. So my website is youarethepower.net. And just to be clear, for all ethical and legal reasons, You Are the Power is a nonprofit, nonpartisan nonprofit. We're not aligned with the Libertarian Party. So anytime I'm talking about Libertarian Party, I'm talking about Spike Cohen, hyper-partisan Libertarian. But I will say this. The reason, and this is me personally, the reason that I started You Are the Power is the same reason why I'm a libertarian. There are people who need help right now. They are not able to wait for some utopian future where libertarians take over the world. They need help now, and we can meet them where they are, and we can help them. With the Libertarian Party, we can do it by getting good candidates elected and getting them in office so that not only can we show that libertarians can win, but that when they win, we all win as well. But we can also help people in the meantime. We can help find people who are being disrespected by their local governments, and we can organize and fight to get them the respect and the justice that they deserve. And in doing so, we can encourage people to join us to fight for respect for many others, including themselves. And that's what we do. So if you want to find out more, youarethepower.net. And thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I love it. Give him a follow at Real Spike Cohen, not at REA1, not at Real Spike with 2 eyes.
Yeah. Don't follow R ampersand RE ampersand capital I SPIK another ampersand. I've never seen such creative ways to
imitation.
Real Spike Chen was one.
Yeah, Real Spike Chen,
my Asian
communist
my
imitator.
Scamming Asian cousin, Real Spike Chen. So yeah, Real Spike Cohen, spelled with those actual letters.
Spike, thank you so much for taking your time to be here. Mike and Christina, I love you both. Thank you so much for being here. And North Carolina, thank you for listening. This whole season has been quite a ride for me. It has been an honor. I hope I have entertained you and informed you a little bit and made you laugh a lot. So thank you all very much. Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. This is Rob, your friendly neighborhood communications director, signing out.
So is that it? All the ballots, all the tally sheets turned in. Everybody good? Everybody good? Everybody good? All right. Then in that case, the guy who really actually literally doesn't need any introduction, Mr. Spike Cohen.
Nevada
2022 National Libertarian Convention. Welcome to the Love Fest, guys. Oh, man. Who here is ready to fight for freedom? That was a good first practice. Let's try that again. Who here is ready to fight for freedom? There we go. There we go. I am at the Libertarian Convention. Who here is ready to end the wars that government has declared on us and on innocent people around the world? Who here is ready to create a future that is freer than we could ever imagine right now? Now, who here doesn't want any of that? That guy. Okay, we got one guy. One guy doesn't want that. That's good to know. Remember that. Okay? It's good that we're here to fight, because the reality is we're the only ones to do it. We've seen what government has done, just even in the last 2 years, running roughshod over our lives and over the lives of others, ruining people's livelihoods, destroying people's businesses, destroying people's incomes and their savings, destroying their rights, destroying their lives. That is not going to end until we fix it. Now, thankfully, as a result of those things, a record number and a growing number of people recognize that the ruling class is scamming them. And we have been rising to the occasion to show them a better way. Our bold strategy to fix all of this through freedom, right? We have more libertarians elected now than at any time in recent memory. We have libertarians are getting more attention in old and new media than ever before. Millions of people are joining me every day on making government absolutely miserable on social media. We're doing the work. We're doing the work, and that's good, because as we know, in a statist society, it's not enough to just not be a statist. We must be actively anti-statist. We all know that. We all know that. We all know that. Everybody here is acutely aware of that. Oh, man. So I'm going to say something that some of y'all might not like, but thankfully as a libertarian, I'm used to doing that. So whoever wins here, and we're about to find out very soon, whoever wins here, it's time to move forward, because what we don't need to do is create a new duopoly in this party. We do not. Anytime you feel like clapping, I will stop for you, okay? Okay? This is about you. You want to clap for me, I will stop talking. No. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a situation where, to a lot of people in this room, you can't just be in another faction or another caucus or disagree with your faction or caucus. They're Nazis. They're blue-pilled loser cucktards. There's a new word you can use. The people who disagree with me, they're not individuals, they're a collective, and I have to treat them that way. I have to look at only the bad actors on their side and ignore the bad actors on my side. I am insistent on creating a duopoly because it doesn't serve me in the least. Let's be very clear. The only difference between the duopoly that's being created in this party and the one that already exists is theirs has power because theirs actually works for them. The purpose of the duopoly isn't that that's a good way to run things. It's to keep everyone distracted from the nonsense they're doing behind the scenes. This doesn't work for us. Distracting us from the real enemy isn't working, and it's not going to work. We need to work together. Remember a minute ago when all of you agreed on all those things I said, ending wars, putting the power back in people's hands, setting America free, creating a freer future? We agree on way more than we disagree on. And all of the people in this room are here because you have made fighting for freedom a major priority in your lives. These are not the people you want as enemies. We already have enemies. Don't make enemies out of people who agree with you. Now look, I'm not calling for unity, okay? There are some major differences here. Some of them are unbridgeable. We have differences in strategy, differences in messaging, differences in whether or not certain libertarian celebrities are good people or bad people. You know, the important stuff. Some of you just don't like each other and aren't going to get along. I'm not calling for you to get along. I'm not even calling for you to pretend to get along. I am just calling for you to stop ripping each other to shreds. Because we use a democratic system to make decisions in this party, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. And we're about to find out over the next few hours who the winners and the losers are going to be. So I'm going to tell you this. If you came here to stop a takeover, you need to know, whether you win or you don't win, you need to know that the motivation and the desire from that takeover came from a frustration with the status quo, a frustration that you likely share, and that if you win, you're gonna have to show them how you're gonna fix that status quo and move the party forward. If you came here to take over and disrupt that status quo, you need to know that a lot of the people that have been opposed to that takeover are also frustrated with that status quo. They just didn't like the vibe of the takeover, okay? We're libertarians. If we perceive something to be an invasion, we naturally resist it. If you win, you need to show them that the takeover was for a positive reason and your vision to take this party to the next level. And if you are here to try to get people to work together no matter who wins, God bless you. Let's get, this round of applause is for you, by the way. My God, Jesus Christ. So that's what I have to say about that. And I want to end on this. Because of the nature of a political party, we have to argue on how to move forward. Also, for the vast majority of voters out there, a political party doesn't seem like something for them to get involved in. They don't want to get involved in party politics. What we are doing here is necessary. What is happening at this convention is necessary for us to have ballot access, for us to run candidates, all of that stuff. This is necessary, but let's not delude ourselves. What happens on the floor of this convention is not going to set the world free in our lives or anyone else's. What happens at the floor of this convention is not going to change the minds of the 95+% of voters who either have no idea who we are or who think that we're not worth joining or voting for. And by the way, that includes millions of self-identified libertarians. That's just the reality of party politics. People don't look at the Republican convention and say, wow, I'm a Republican, or look at the Democrat convention and say, wow, I'm a Democrat. And they're not going to look at this one and say, wow, I'm a libertarian. They want to see action. They don't want to see infighting. They want to see a bold new direction. And they want to see it from you in your community. Go to your city council meetings and your county council meetings and speak the truth to those corrupt fools and organize and invite for other people to join you. Hell, invite me, I might join you. I like that. I like doing that. Build coalitions with people who agree with you on even one issue and win on that issue with them. Cyberbully the government on social media 24/7 until they delete their accounts. That gets the biggest applause. No, that one's my favorite too. That one's my favorite too. The other ones might have been more important, but that one is truly my favorite too. Let's be clear. Show your neighbors how liberty works in practice and action and not just theory and philosophy, because long before they join us, long before they vote to put a libertarian in the White House, they need to see how liberty works where they live, which, by the way, is where you live. Work to set your community free and bring people into the movement. Stop. Oh, go ahead. Thank you. Stop waiting, if you were waiting, stop waiting for some great libertarian savior to come and magically get everyone to vote libertarians and vote us into the White House where we can trickle down liberty on everyone from Capitol Hill. That's not how this works. This is not Space Jam. Bill Murray is not coming out of nowhere at the last minute to save the day. No one is coming. Absent our action, things are only going to get worse. You don't like double-digit inflation? Wait till your dollars are as worthless as Zimbabwean dollars. You don't like food and formula shortages? Wait till you're lucky to find anything at the store, like in Venezuela. You didn't like lockdowns and mandates? Wait till they put you in camps like they did in Australia. Or weld your door shut so you can starve to death like in China. This isn't from some dystopian novel. This is happening right now, and it will happen here unless we stop it. And while we're stopping that, let's put a stop to everything else they've been doing. The war on guns, the war on drugs, the wars overseas, the war on your income, your savings, your livelihood, your family, your way of life, your personal health choices, your rights, your freedoms. Let's put an end to it and bury it for good. No one is coming to save us. We are here to save us. We are here to spread liberty in our communities. We are here to put liberty and freedom ideas into our cultures. We are here to show people a better and new way. We are here to set America free. We are here for nothing short of a revolution. So let's do it. Now, who's with me?
Hey everybody, it's Travis Grew and Cat Daddy here. And from what we hear, this is the final episode of season 3. And so we thank you again for watching and keeping up with the activities. And both of us are on the road right now. So how you doing, Cat Daddy? Has everything been good? I know I missed last week and I really apologize.
Well, yeah, and welcome back. I'm calling you because I just got done watching with the Gate City riot, the latest Panther loss to bring them to 0-6, and this is by far the most frustrating game there was all day long. The Panthers,
absolutely,
yeah, and if you saw it too, you know they jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and then they decided to just let Miami run all over them. And some of the play calling after that 14-0 lead was just so bizarre, in my opinion, especially in the latter parts of the game. But it all started back in the latter part of the first half when the clock management was terrible. Now, for the first few plays, it wasn't so bad. They were getting up to the line, but with 45 seconds left, they made a play, they caught a first down, and they're just getting up to the line, la, 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 just jogging up. And it was Miami who called the timeout, not the Panthers. And then afterwards, it felt like that they were playing for the field goal, which was later missed. So they go into the half down 7. And then they come out of half, give up a touchdown, they're down 14, and it's just a snowball. And some of the other bizarre mistakes on 4th and 2 from the 24, you call a long pass play. When you're down 3 scores and you're needing first downs, most notably before you need touchdowns, it wasn't a goal-to-go situation. You call a pass to the end zone from the 30-yard line. What are you doing? To me, these are fireable offenses. You're just laying down. You're asking.
You don't sound real happy with the coaching right now. You don't sound too happy with.
No. From what I've seen, Frank Reich is nothing but Matt Rule in a different mask.
Right.
Now we see why he was fired from Indianapolis. And you know what? He should be fired from Carolina Panthers as well because he does not know what he's doing because that play calling from the first 2 touchdowns looked suspiciously like Thomas Brown's play calling. And then when it looked good, Frank's like, okay, give it back to me. I want to look good on this first win. And it looked like a man coaching for his job, but he coached himself right out of one, in my opinion.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the turning point of the game was the fake punt and then the missed first down by inches.
Well, yeah,
I thought that's where the game turned.
Well, it gave Miami a short field.
Because they were
and that gave them
7 at that point, and
Yeah.
and honestly, Bryce Young looked really, really good at the beginning of the game into the second quarter, and that play, I believe, was the turning point. After that, everything went south.
Yeah, it gave them a lot of momentum, and it just began that snowball.
When they didn't get the first down by inches on the fake punt and the pass, that is where it went south. And that's just my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong. What do you think about it?
Well, it did snowball after that point, but I still think there was a part where it could have stayed turned around, but the 3 and out afterwards did not help.
Right.
And it just, even at 14-14, you don't want to give up a touchdown right before half, and it was just a walk-in touchdown. And we have wide receivers taking, somersault selfies. And it was just laughable after that. 21 becomes 28, becomes 35, becomes 42.
42, 14, or 21. Actually, they did get
Well,
it.
yeah, they got the gift pick 6 from the backup quarterback. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Another garbage time touchdown from a garbage team.
But you know what? Honestly, going into this game with the momentum Miami has had, I didn't expect much more than this. Actually, I was shocked when they were up 14-0. I was shocked.
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, where has this been all season? We had not had an opening drive touchdown all year. We had one of those. And then we were causing Miami to do 3 and outs, and it was just like, maybe.
Yeah.
But
a 42-21 is in my opinion a blowout, and it's
and that means Miami
0-6.
covered.
I didn't expect to beat Miami. Miami is extremely hot right now, and I didn't expect to beat them. However, they played well in the first half, and then it went south, and it was embarrassing. We had a chance to beat them, and we blew it away, Panthers style. And now we're 0-6, and it's tough to be a fan. It is. Are you wearing a Panthers shirt today?
I am in my jersey, dude.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. I wore my chain too. I have my chain with me, but as you can see, he's dark.
Yeah,
He's dark. He's not lit up. He's not lit up. He's not
Daddy
lit up for a while.
Representing. That's amazing.
And it's just, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow morning.
What do you think he's going to get fired?
Huh?
You think coach is
I'm
going
of
to
the
get
opinion
fired?
they should leave him on the tarmac in Miami, Florida. Yeah, that's how mad I am right now at this team because they just don't look like it. So
I want you to get it all out, Cat Daddy. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, I'm just under the opinion now, and I know somebody will say, well, we're just the new Browns, and I don't care. It's just fire both Reich and the general manager, Scott Fitterer, start clean. Do not hire the coach before you hire the general manager. Hire the general manager first. Let the general manager pick his coach so that both of them can be on the same page, and that's it.
That's fair. Yeah, I like that approach.
And that's what was not done last time. You had Ron Rivera was fired, And then the next year, Marty Herney was fired. And so you were picking a general manager for Matt Rule. And as you saw, most of those picks were mostly Matt Rule and less Scott Fitterer. And what we've seen from Scott Fitterer hasn't instilled much confidence in me either. But I think changes do need to be done. Somebody asked me today, they said, has a coach ever been fired in his first year and hasn't won a game before he even won a game on his current team? I said, I don't know the answer to that question, but there's always a first time for anything.
Yeah. Well,
and I know Tepper's not a patient.
We ought to just go 0-17 and get another first round pick. I mean, but
we got to trade for it because our first round pick belongs to the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we had already rebuilt, at the beginning of the season. I didn't expect a whole lot because a bunch of new players, but we were in rebuilding season last year, and it looks like we're going to have to be in rebuilding season again next year. So it's a this year
was supposed to be. We were one player away
to be a Panthers fan right now.
It is, but this is what fandom is all about. You got to stick with your team through thin and thick, and you don't have to like everything that they do.
Yeah.
But again, I root for teams. I don't root for individual players. I never have. I never will. I know CMC and DJ Moore on other teams. I wish them all the success in the world, but to me now, they are enemies, and I don't care 2 cents about them.
Yeah.
And I know people that still in love with those players, and I'm like, glad they were with us for a time, but they're not with us anymore. Get over it.
Well, on a side note, the Carolina Hurricanes are 2-0.
Yes.
And playing super well. And
they're scoring a lot, but they're also giving up a lot.
They are. These teams are hungry right out of the gate. They have energy. They have momentum at the beginning. But I think we've built an incredible franchise, and I really think we're going to do it this year. That's my opinion.
Isn't it nice though to be spending to the cap rather than to the floor?
Yeah. They spent a ton of money. I don't know
and it's just and the thing is they signed that lease. I think it goes now through 2040.
Yeah.
And but Tom Dundon is going to look to get a new arena by then.
Yeah.
And work with the Centennial Authority in Raleigh to build that one. And here's the thing. Did you see where Tom Dundon is looking to get a group together to get a Major League Baseball franchise
in Raleigh?
And I'm like, thank you, somebody in North Carolina, because everybody keeps talking.
I did hear about that.
But where's the group? Where's the owner? Where's the person? There is none. Dundon is the first person in all of North Carolina to say, hey, North Carolina needs a baseball team, and it would go great in Raleigh. And I happen to agree with him. Raleigh has the real estate.
Apparently, they have the land picked out. It's on the south side of downtown. There's
and isn't that what I told you, sir?
It's a really good spot. It's downtown, just north of I-40, and there's a really, really good spot for it. And if a Major League Baseball stadium comes to Raleigh, it's going to cause an explosion of new businesses and new money to pour into
new businesses
all
new
around
money,
the stadium.
New
great for the south side of Raleigh.
Don't forget the concerts.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Next time Taylor Swift does Eras tour or whatever she calls her next tour, she'll hit Raleigh if Raleigh has a big enough stadium for her stage, and that ballpark would have it.
Yeah.
And it would be a boon, and like I said, it would
pay $900 a piece for tickets. That's awesome.
It would be a nice symmetry.
Yeah.
You'd have baseball and hockey, and they're in two completely different seasons.
Yeah.
In Raleigh, so they wouldn't overlap with each other too much. and you would have basketball and football and soccer in Charlotte. And to me, that's a perfect symmetry for the state of North Carolina. You would have all 4 plus 1 major sports residing in the state.
You know, and with sports betting coming in North Carolina, that will be huge. And
It will.
I do think the MLB team would do well here. I wonder myself how it would affect the Durham Bulls and their fan base and their turnouts. I wonder that.
That's a good question, because for years now, the Seattle Mariners have had the Tacoma Rainiers, which is their AAA team, right next door, and it hasn't affected them much.
Okay.
So I think it would work on the same level.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I hope you're right, because I wouldn't want the Durham Bulls to suffer at all with their fan base or their turnouts for their
And
game.
I'm sure the Durham Bulls would be the AAA of the Major League Baseball franchise.
I don't know. I think it'd stay with Tampa.
Do you think they would, or would you see, there would also be upheaval in the other parts of the state? Charlotte might
I
decide.
think it'd stay with Tampa. I don't see them. I don't know. I don't see them switching.
It would be interesting, but I don't think the Raleigh franchise would want a competing AAA franchise in their backyard.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult would it be for them to switch to the Raleigh team, whatever they're called?
I don't think it would be that difficult, because, like I said, if the switch would take place over an off season.
Oh, okay.
Because the off season before, they would be Tampa. Then it would be like a hockey club. They wouldn't be attached to a team, and then you would get assigned the next after spring training.
Got you.
Yeah. Because remember, the seasons of all the minor league teams start about a month after the major league season, after everybody's been sorted out.
Right.
Because you have to have sort of a quote unquote spring training with your actual teammates, so y'all can develop a chemistry before the season starts and set your pitching rotations.
Right. Cool. What else do we need to talk about on this?
Well. Even though the pro version of a North Carolina team could not beat the pro version of a Miami team, the college ones did a quite good job of it, with the UNC Tar Heels defeating the Miami Hurricanes 41-31 and going to 6-0.
Duke is looking good, man, on the football side.
And Duke as well, but those are the only 2 teams right now. State is in a bad way. East Carolina is
got a good team too. UNC is actually ranked higher than Duke.
Yeah, but ECU's in a bad way right now. Unfortunately, UNC Charlotte, or as they go by Charlotte now, is in a very bad way. They lost 14-0 to Navy.
Yeah.
They got shut out by Navy, who has not been a good team of late.
Navy. Of all teams, Navy. Are you kidding me?
And then ECU got defeated by future ACC member SMU by a ton. And like I said, it's a lot of not good football, more not good football than good football in the state of North Carolina right now.
I don't know, man. I think Duke is doing super.
That is
a rare situation, and they're only getting better.
The blue teams, the other 2 blue teams are doing great. It's just that all the other colors of the rainbow are not doing so great in the world of college football in North Carolina.
Yeah, there's a little shift. I mean, typically Duke is known for basketball.
As is North Carolina.
Yeah, but I mean, both teams are ranked and pretty high. I was actually really bummed about Notre Dame beating Duke on game day. I really wanted Duke to pull it off and just embarrass Notre Dame.
Well, did you see
it was a really, really, really good game. I was a little bummed because I pull for Duke. I do.
Well, no, isn't it? Listen, I ain't gonna criticize you for that. You know, I pull for UNC, even
I
though
hope
I
you
didn't
do.
do
I
it.
hope you do criticize me for it because
And but
Duke is better.
the thing is, did you see Ken Jeong on game day when they went that little thing they did where
I
he
don't
picked
know.
Duke? Everybody else picked Notre Dame, but he was the only one, of course, that picked Duke. He's like, I
Oh,
went to Duke. I graduated from Duke. I am Duke.
I
It was
am a
so
Blue
hilarious.
Devil. I am a Blue Devil.
And he tried to upstage Lee Corso when Lee Corso came out with the Notre Dame leprechaun dressed in a leprechaun's outfit, jumping down and doing the devil horns in front of him, and it was just
Yeah,
hilarious. He
that is.
is a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the college football realm. And let
Yeah.
me check something real quick. I think Charlotte is in play right now. I don't know. I don't think they are, but they're still trying to get the playoffs. As you know, they got the 2 games, one at home and one away against Miami. And they have to get a
Yeah.
total of 4 points, which means they have to win one and draw one in order to make the last spot of the playoffs. And a part of me wants them to do it, and a part of me wants them to do it, and a part of me wants them not to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, Latanzio has not done a good job as coach. He needs to leave as well. And just making the playoffs makes him look, quote unquote, good. And I don't want that to happen. So that's about it on my realm of sports knowledge of that situation. But
I was able to go to a NC Courage game last week, and
out
that
there
was
at Cary.
Yes, they played the Miami Wave, which was the #1 ranked team in women's FC. And they ended up tying 0-0. No score.
That's a good point for them.
Yeah.
You
Those
know,
girls
like
played hard, man.
and
They
when
played so hard. I was so impressed. That was so much fun.
When you were out, I made note of that. NC Courage did win the in-season tournament as well. And I think they used that momentum to propel them in the regular season, and it might get them in the playoffs. We'll find out.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I really do. I think so. Those girls are amazing. I mean, they play their heart out, and it was
And
impressive.
Denise O'Sullivan is a great captain.
Yes. Yeah, they were fantastic. I will go to another game because that was a lot of fun. It's at the Wake Med soccer park. So that's all I have as well.
Yeah, and before we go any further, I just want to thank the people out there for sticking with us throughout this entire season of Liberty Inc. And we couldn't have done it without y'all's support. We appreciate all the likes, all the subscribes,
all the
the
millions of
comments.
viewers out there. We really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for watching.
And stay tuned.
Podcast.
I can't say anything, but stay tuned in this spot because other things may come about.
Right.
And so just keep your subscriptions to us because when something comes out, we'll be the first to let you know. All right.
Absolutely. And we will bring it to you from a Liberty perspective. So sports freedom. We believe in sports freedom. Absolutely. So thank you again. This is
Thank you.
Dub and Gru, aka Cat Daddy and Gru. Thanks again for watching Liberty Inc. We will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.